In the mid-90s, Capcom was aiming to produce their very own survival horror that would reinvent the wheel of the genre, and taking inspiration from games such as Sweet Home, Alone in the Dark, and Clock Tower. With these inspirations, Capcom would leave the task up to a man named Shinji Mikami. With his vision, he and his team went on to produce a game that would change Capcom forever. Resident Evil. Shinji Mikami's take on the survival horror pioneered the genre and took it to new heights. The game sold a whopping 5 million copies, which for the time was ridiculous for any other entertainment media to comprehend. With this success, Capcom became a major player in the gaming industry. The train didn't stop there, however, as they went on to produce 2 more sequels in the late 90s, which were both commercial successes. Since then, Resident Evil has been a household name in the gaming industry and is one of the longest running franchises ever. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. There's been highs and there's been lows. Resident Evil 4 took the franchise in a different direction and wanted to focus more on action horror rather than survival. The fourth entry is beloved by many, including myself, but some felt it split the fanbase and many felt it moved too far away from what made Resident Evil special, and some would argue it may have been the beginning of the end for the franchise, as the next 2 entries moved even further away from the original formula and focused way too much on the action. Resident Evil 5 is one of the most controversial titles in the franchise, since it had a focus on cooperative play, meaning the game was best played with a friend. And if you didn't have anyone to play with, you were stuck with an AI partner that made the experience frustrating. Now, I don't think the AI was that bad, just hand her a sniper rifle and all the ammo for it and she's got your back. And finally, what people considered the nail in the coffin, Resident Evil 6. Though it brought back majority of the beloved characters, it was way too action focused and it was riddled with ridiculous set pieces and quick time events. After its poor reception, Resident Evil took a long 5-year-long sleep, but it came back with a bang. Resident Evil 7. This one went back to what made Resident Evil great and focused on exploration, resource management and horror. Resident Evil 7 is considered the scariest entry in the franchise and went on to be a huge success. With this, Resident Evil had a resurgence, and right now, it's going through its remake phase. The reason I'm bringing up the history of Resident Evil is because it's important to understand the phases the game went through and how unique each game has been. There's a total of 30 Resident Evil games, and that includes the mainline titles, spin-offs, and the remakes. I got into the franchise around the time Resident Evil 2 Remake released, and it quickly became one of my favourite IPs. Now, I have played all of the recent Resident Evil games and loved every single one of them, but my favourite one is the first Resident Evil. And no, I'm not talking about the one that released in the 90s, I wasn't even born yet. In fact, I'm talking about the 2002 remake, or remaster. Yeah, Capcom didn't quite figure that one out yet. This was, at the time, a console exclusive. Capcom had partnered up with Nintendo to produce the remake of Resident Evil, with Shinji Mikami returning. Though the original was a huge success, Mikami felt there was still a ton of room for improvement, not just with the visuals, but with the gameplay. Nintendo's GameCube would be the platform where he would make his full vision for the game come true. The console had more processing power than the PlayStation 2, however it lacked a DVD drive and was instead using a mini DVD. This meant that the remake had to be split into 2 discs. But this wasn't really all that much of an issue, since this was a common trend for games during that generation, so players were kinda used to it. Despite that single limitation, the GameCube was ahead of any console at that time. However, it still wasn't enough for Shinji Mikami's vision. He wanted the remake to have insane levels of detail for the environments and models, but the GameCube was still limiting despite its processing power. But just by walking around the Spencer Mansion, you can clearly see the visuals are beautiful, especially for that time period. Compared to the original, the game got a complete facelift. Everything has been recreated from the ground up. The weapons, characters, monsters, and animations all had a realistic look to them. At the time, it was regarded as the most graphically impressive game. Even though the GameCube was still quite limiting for Shinji Mikami's vision, he prevailed. But how did him and his team achieve this? Well, there is some trickery involved. You see these environments? Beautiful, right? Well, what if I told you that every single scene I just showed you isn't actually 3D? The entire game utilises handcrafted pre-rendered images for each camera angle in the game. As the camera shifts from one angle to another, it switches to a new pre-rendered image. This is why they stuck to fixed camera angles, because this way they can limit what we can see and give off the illusion you're walking through a 3D environment. With the use of pre-rendered background images, they were able to have highly detailed 3D models and textures for the characters, monsters, and items, whilst maintaining a high frame rate. This one complex illusion makes the Spencer Mansion a terrifying yet beautiful place to explore, and Shinji Mikami's vision for the visuals was achieved. But as for the graphics, how does the Resident Evil Remake play? Well, the short answer is, I think the Resident Evil Remake is hands down the best game in the franchise, and may even be the greatest survival horror ever. But if you want the long answer, sit back, relax, and get ready to enter the survival horror. We boot up the game and are immediately greeted with a choice. We must select our character, either man or woman. Now this choice is important as it impacts the gameplay and story. This game introduces us to Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine for the first time. Both are iconic characters in the franchise and have been in many Resident Evil games. Later, I will go into more detail about the differences between these characters when it becomes more relevant. For now, let's begin our mission. It's July 24th, 1998. There's been a rise of murders surrounding Raccoon Forest. The victims were eaten. The Raccoon Police Department deployed their Special Tactics and Rescue Service team to investigate the forest. This team is known as STARS. Bravo team was chosen to investigate. Their mission was to search the forest and report anything suspicious. However, despite their skills, they all went MIA. Alpha team is then sent in for a search and rescue mission, and this is where the game begins. Alpha team finds a crash site and discovers Kevin's remains. They then proceed into the forest to search for Bravo team. However, their mission takes a horrifying turn and they walk straight into a nightmare. Joseph is then attacked by a pack of undead dogs, and Jill's special training kicks in. In an attempt to save Joseph, she just stands there and misses every single shot.
What are you aiming at? What are you aiming at?
Chris then comes to the rescue and barely saves Jill by the skin of his teeth. He then picks Jill up and they make a mad dash for the nearest shelter, the Spencer Mansion. While we investigate and uncover the dark secrets of this place, the mansion will be our home for a while. Though we are not welcome, we have no other choice. Depending on who you selected to play as, the intro plays out differently. In Jill's scenario, Chris has gone missing and she's with Wesker and Barry. Whereas in Chris's scenario, he's with Jill and Wesker and Barry is the one who's gone missing. One thing you will quickly notice is that the voice acting isn't great.
Am I poisoned?
Oh yeah, I would think so.
I need serum.
I need serum. But it's miles better than the original.
I don't know what happened.
Barry, where's Barry?
However, the voice acting in this game just adds so much charm to it. Resident Evil was always a cheesy game, and Resident Evil 4 took that cheesiness to a whole new level.
Let our miserable insects out for some exercise down in the sewer.
Thanks. That should keep me company, 'cause boredom kills me.
Brethren.
No thanks, bro.
This is something fans loved about these games. I do think over the years, Resident Evil has been slowly losing that charm that it once had, and is leaning more towards a serious tone.
Damn straight we will. And when I find Miranda, she's a dead woman.
Jill and Chris's scenarios play out the same. They both solve the same puzzles and acquire the same keys in the same locations. However, what's different about them is how their story unfolds and the type of equipment they carry. Both of them have a unique slot for a special item, and this is something that will not affect your very limited inventory space. Barry gives Jill a lockpick which allows her to access 5 particular doors in the mansion. Chris can also gain access to these doors, however he will need an old key to open them. You may think the lockpick is handy, but you open all these doors fairly early in the game, which quickly makes the lockpick redundant. Even though Chris requires old keys, it's really not that much of a hassle. But Chris's unique item completely tramples over Jill's. Chris is equipped with a lighter. This item is incredibly important and will get used throughout the entire game, unlike Jill's lockpick. Later, I will explain why the lighter is so important when the time is right, but for this reason alone, Chris is S tier. Okay, there is one major difference between these characters. Though Chris is equipped with one of the most important items in the game, and that it doesn't take up an inventory slot, there is one major drawback about Chris. Even though Jill has a pretty shit unique item, there is one major thing that instantly makes her S tier, and it's a pretty big deal. She has 8 inventory slots, whereas Chris only has 6, which instantly downgrades him to C tier. So if you sweated your way through Jill's scenario and have no knowledge that Chris has a smaller inventory space,
What? No, dude!
this can completely mess up the strategy you developed whilst playing Jill. This is what happened to me, and I immediately presumed Chris's scenario is going to be harder, which it sort of is, but there is one thing about Chris that actually makes the game much less frustrating than Jill's, but we will get to that. For now, let's investigate those gunshots. Jill and Barry investigate together and stumble across some blood. Whilst Barry just stares at it, he tells us to go look for more clues. We enter the hallway to the right and stumble upon the stuff of nightmares. We find one of the Bravo team members, Kenneth J. Sullivan, and he's being eaten by another person. The zombie then switches its attention towards us, and now we get our first taste of combat. And you will quickly notice, wow, this motherfucker doesn't want to die. Then before you know it, it grabs you, munches on you 3 times, and now you're dead. Zombies in this game do have a decent amount of health, and sometimes the damage can feel very random. At times, they can die in just a few shots. Oh yes. Or eat up to 10 rounds. Ammo and supplies in this game are precious, so every zombie encounter can be a serious threat if you do not have enough ammo. Your pistol can hold up to 15 rounds, and mags you find around the mansion will give you 15 more rounds. You can stack up on pistol ammo pretty easily if you know how to avoid the zombies, but even then, it's still easy to blow through all of it. The reason the zombies are designed this way is because it's meant to force you into making a decision. Do I leave this zombie here and deal with it later, or do I kill it right now so I don't have to worry about it again? Can I run around them instead, or is it really worth the risk of taking damage? Just like ammo, healing items are also limited, so every encounter you have to really think about whether or not if it's worth it. You can just deal with the threat now and he will never bother you again. Or do I just leave him alone to conserve ammo and hope this decision never comes back to haunt me? It's choices like this that makes Resident Evil 1 so unique compared to ones such as Resident Evil 4 and 8. In those games, it was all about the action and you were forced into scenarios where you had to shoot your way out. The best case scenario in those games was killing everything without spending too much ammo. In Resident Evil 1, the best case scenario was using no ammo and healing items at all, and reaching safety with the key items. The difference between these games is that you're not forced to kill anything in Resident Evil 1 unless it's a boss. Sometimes it is better to let a zombie grab you and push him off to get past them if you have more healing items than ammo. But leaving zombies in certain areas can really come back to bite you, because the camera angles in this game are not your friends, because sometimes it can steal zombies. Where's he gone? Oh my god! But if you do decide to spend some ammo on some zombies, so you don't have to worry about them again, just so you know, whatever you decide, there will be consequences. Oh, fuck that. Pro tip, instead of wasting ammo on this melon, you can just run back to Barry and he will deal with the threat for you.
Look out! It's a monster!
Well, take a look at what happened. Seriously, £482,118 in the first month, and I'm simply blown away.
But what I find odd about this cutscene is that it happens regardless of what you do. If you choose to kill the zombie, the cutscene still plays and that zombie is still alive. And this is probably the toughest zombie in the game, because as we return to Wesker, the fucker just gets back up and goes back to the same hallway. And he's alive again. So don't even bother wasting ammo on this unit. If you're playing as Chris, however, you're on your own and there's no one here to save you. We return to the main hall with Barry and Wesker is nowhere to be seen. Barry decides we should split up and look for survivors, and this is where the game officially begins. We are free to explore the mansion. However, there are no clues, quest markers, or any sort of information to work on. All we have to work with is to find your fellow teammates. Resident Evil requires a lot of puzzle solving and backtracking, whilst dodging a numerous amount of danger. That is the core gameplay loop. The first thing we should do is return to the hallway where Kenneth was. The Spencer mansion is filled with tight corridors, and the camera angles are your worst enemy. Some may find this annoying, since it does shift a lot, but honestly, I just think it adds so much to the horror. One camera trick I love is this one. You can't see what's in the corner, but the mirror tells you exactly what's there. The zombie doesn't aggro onto you until you approach it, but that mirror just makes you second guess wherever or not you should approach. As spooky as it is, we must go down this hallway so we can obtain our first key item. Though one important thing to note is that there's already a dead zombie here. Maybe one of our fellow Star members has already been through here, so this body could be a clue. At the end of the hallway, we can retrieve this golden arrow, then also get munched on by a zombie. If we examine the arrow, we can actually remove the head, and it reveals to us that it's actually a peridot stone. Not much information is given to us other than that it's known as the poor man's stone. Cool, we learned nothing, and right now it is completely useless to us. But maybe we'll find a use for it later. You will find a lot of items in this game, and you will have zero clue on what to do with them. Unlike modern games, this game does not hold your hand whatsoever, so it's all up to you to figure it out. But that's what makes this game great. It's very satisfying when you figure things out and when the game starts to click. Out on this balcony, we can find a dagger. This is one of the few defensive items in the game. These are basically get out of jail free cards, since you can use them to escape from zombies without taking damage. These items are crucial on hard mode, as you can die very quickly if one of those freak monsters grab you. Jill and Chris can both access daggers, but they also get their own unique defensive items. For Jill, she has a taser that requires small batteries. I obviously don't need to explain what this is because everyone knows what a taser does.
I'll get you, bitch!
This won't kill the zombie, it just stuns them, which gives you enough time to run around them. Honestly, it's not really all that much different from the dagger, it's just more rare to come by. Now Chris has access to hands down the best defensive item in the game, the flash grenade. Though just like the small batteries, these are limited. But what makes the flash grenade far superior than the taser is that it just outright deals with the problem entirely and evaporates them. For that reason, Chris goes back up to S tier. Defensive items have their own unique slot and it won't take up anything in the inventory, so there's no reason to not pick these up. Here's a tip though, turn off automatic defensive items. Since these are limited, it's important to conserve them as there will be situations where you run out of healing items and you can't afford to lose health. But sometimes, it may be better to let a zombie grab you and just spam WASD to push them off. Yes, I play with a keyboard, fight me. One thing I found hilarious though, is that there's zero indicators that you can push zombies off.
Fantastic!
There's even nothing in the manual about this. So for people who are playing for the first time, will have no idea they can save themselves and instead they will just let the zombies have its lunch. Shinji Mikami took the no hand holding too far and didn't give the player a tutorial on how to play the game, because he's trying to torture us. We loop back around to the main hall and discover there's actually a door that's sort of hidden. Yes, before you ask, it took me a while to realise this was actually a door. Don't ask me why. The door takes us to a cemetery that's oddly close to the mansion. There are headstones scattered everywhere, almost as if they built this place and expected there will be a lot of death. I mean, no shit, there's zombies everywhere. Lazy sods didn't even bother to bury the dead. But if you dumped all your points into perception, you will notice that all the zombies are male and are wearing somewhat modern clothing, meaning they may have not been dead for very long. But the question is, what are they all doing here? So far, the Spencer mansion doesn't seem like a real home. It feels more like a death trap. If we take a closer look at this statue of an archer, we can see a slot with a very familiar shape. We need to give the statue the arrowhead. By doing this, the lad opens a secret passage for us. And holy shit, this ain't spooky at all. Deep inside this crypt, we discover a coffin that's been strung up with 4 chains. Up against the wall is 4 headstones with 4 very eerie looking faces that have been chiselled out. Inside this crypt, we can also find a book called the Book of Curses. It gives us a description about 4 items called death masks. This book tells us that once all the masks have been returned to the headstones, evil will awaken. How very menacing. This book gives us an objective. Return all these items back to where they belong. Now we just have to find them. The book even helps us by supplying one of the many keys to the mansion. This will open up new areas to explore. Let's just hope these rooms are more friendly than the ones we've previously been to. Let's start with the east side of the mansion, since in this part there are some goodies to find, including the second best weapon in the game. Unlocking this door takes us into this hallway, and there's something odd you will immediately notice. This furniture looks rather 3D. By walking into it, you can push it out of the way to reveal some hidden loot underneath it. In the next room, we can use Jill's lockpick to open this side door. Chris cannot do this yet because he would need an old key. Lucky for us though, there's one conveniently close to this door. Right next to us is a bathroom. Inside, we can drain this bathtub, but by doing this, we get a nasty surprise. In Chris's playthrough, we have to do this in order to retrieve the old key from the bathtub. However, it's optional for Jill since there's only a dagger inside, though I do recommend picking it up. But one thing that's different about these cutscenes is that Jill's smart enough to use the power of her boot while the zombie was down and kill it. Chris just stands there like a bumbling idiot and allows it to invade his personal space. Oh, what? So Jill can just kill it instantly, but Chris gets fucking punished, mate. What? But now that we have the old key, we can unlock this side door and pick up an important item. This bag of chemicals. This will be useful later. But while we're here, let's grab the second best gun in the game. But one important tip for Jill. Once you've entered the east side of the mansion and have entered a few rooms, do not return to the main hall. By doing that, you trigger a cutscene with Barry, which causes him to temporarily leave the mansion. This means he won't be around to help us for the next part. Entering this not so obvious trap room, we can find the glorious shotgun. A weapon so powerful that it has a chance to turn a zombie's head into mush in just one shot. But as we pick it up, you can visibly see that it was sitting on some sort of trigger. Leaving with the shotgun, it causes the ceiling to slowly descend. But since we didn't enter the main hall and had that cutscene with Barry, he comes to the rescue and pulls Jill out of there. I just love how the camera angle on the door is much lower than usual because we're being dragged across the floor. Ah, Mikami, the master of attention to detail. Hideo Kojima has nothing on this man. But as for Chris, obtaining the shotgun is a longer process and we can't get it till later in the game. For now, he's just stuck with his pea shooter. But on the west side of the mansion, you can find a broken shotgun. Placing this on the wall, the trap doesn't get triggered. Jill will have to do the same thing if Barry isn't around to save her. This is why you avoid returning to the main hall. This is the safe room. Here we can store an infinite amount of goods and save our progress. But now is a good time to explain how saving works. There are 0 autosaves. 0. You have to manually save your progress using an item called an ink ribbon. Just like ammo, ink ribbons are also limited. Now there is a generous amount of ink ribbons, but you have to go out your way to find them. Since it's limited, you have to pace your saves throughout the entire game. But honestly, as daunting as that sounds, it's not too bad. Just make sure you don't save after every spooky encounter. There are 2 safe rooms located inside the mansion, one being on each side. You will be making frequent trips between the 2, but while we're here, store the shotgun since right now it's not worth using. Carrying 2 guns at the same time takes up way too much room, so most of the time you'll be walking around with just one weapon. But when the time is right, switching out to a stronger weapon when it's appropriate is the smart thing to do. One important thing to do is to make sure it's safe outside of this room.
Oh yes, that's lucky.
So clear out any zombies that may be lurking outside. Trust me, this will save you the hassle. Just above the safe room, we can find this office. This is where Jill finds the lighter. She also has access to it, however, unlike Chris's, this lighter takes up a slot in your inventory. We can also find this dog whistle along with this clue. We have to find this very spot and use this item. This is located on the opposite side of the mansion. I recommend the shotgun for this next part, because by using the dog whistle, it spawns 2 not so friendly doggos. By killing them, we can retrieve this dog collar. Examining it closely, we can find a hidden key. But Jill and Chris know that it's just an imitation of a key, so for now, it's completely useless. But heading towards the attic, Okay, now is a really good time to talk about this. So when you kill a zombie in this game, they're actually not dead. After a certain amount of time has passed, these knobheads get back up, and they turn into something much scarier. These things are called Crimson Heads. This is completely new in the remake, and it's a cruel mechanic that Mikami added to keep the tension up and to give you nightmares. This is why you have to be careful with which zombies you kill and to keep track of where you did the deed. Crimson Heads are much faster, stronger, and scarier than your regular zombie, though they are pretty much glass cannons. They dish out a mean amount of damage and are quick on their feet, but they can easily be killed. But there are ways to avoid this from happening. Now this is where the lighter comes into play. You will find a kerosene canteen in this safe room, and this is used to permanently perish any zombies you've wasted. But just like everything else in this game, the fuel is limited and you can find these cans scattered around the game to refuel. By using the kerosene on the zombie body, it will set them on fire. This will completely get rid of them. So it's smart to clear out any zombies outside of safe rooms to ensure you don't get swarmed by Crimson Heads. Oh, fucking move! Oh, I'm actually getting stunlocked. There are other ways though. If you remove the head of the zombie, you do not have to burn them. They completely tap out the game from this. You can do this with your pistol, though it is pretty rare for it to happen. But if you consistently want this, use the shotgun at extreme close range and aim for the head. This is why I think the shotgun is the best gun in the game, simply for this reason, as it saves time and you can do it with 1 or 2 shots if you're lucky. But this is why Chris's unique defensive item is so great, because it destroys their head, unlike Jill's shit stun gun. Avoiding this spooky encounter for now, we enter the attic. At the end, we can find another one of the mansion keys, but picking this up, it triggers a trap with no escape. Yeah, I'm dead. What the fuck is this, mate? I hope you saved your game. To prevent this from happening, you must place the fake key into the slot. With this brand new key, we can obtain a new weapon. Returning to the main hall, you can go outside onto this balcony. This is where we can find another Fallen Stars member. This was Forrest, another member of Bravo team. Beside him though, he left a nice gift for Jill, the grenade launcher. But nothing for Chris. You snooze, you lose. Just beyond Forest, we can find more healing items. But by walking towards the dead end, this happens. What? Fresh. Tell me he's dead. There's no way he's still alive, right? Forrest turns and is uniquely different to any other zombie in the game. He's faster and stronger, just like a Crimson Head. This, in my opinion, is actually one of the scarier moments in this game, since this encounter is optional. You can prevent this from happening if you don't go down this path, so learning my lesson from Jill, I got the fuck out of there. One thing I found interesting about this encounter though, is there's a possible chance of a cutscene where Barry is already here investigating.
You should take a look at this. I warn you though, it's not pretty.
I don't know exactly what triggers this, but this game does have a bunch of hidden cutscenes that are triggered by your actions, which is something I find really cool. We continue through the east side of the mansion using the armor key, and we run into another STARS member who is surprisingly alive.
Place is a killing zone. There are monsters.
This is Richard, another member of Bravo team. He's alive, but something has seriously wounded him.
Bring me serum. I saw some, but didn't bring any.
I'll go and get it, okay? You're gonna make it.
Thanks.
The cutscene ends and then it boots us back outside. It marks a safe room on the west side of the mansion. This is where you will find the serum. But Richard can hold on for a little longer. He will be fine. Ah, shit. Richard's death is on a time limit, and you can only prevent this if you're fast enough. So rushing back to the west side of the mansion and retrieving the serum, we can save Richard. But what exactly does this change? Well, if he dies, we won't be able to access the best gun in the game, which is a big deal, especially in Chris's scenario since he benefits from it dramatically. When we get to Richard with Chris, the cutscene is completely different.
You.
Chris Redfield, Alpha Team. We're here to rescue you.
We find Rebecca Chambers tending to Richard's wounds. She's the team medic for Bravo team, but we still have to retrieve the serum for her, but we get more time with Chris. But this is something I found weird, right? Rebecca is only 18 years old. Stars must be short-staffed to be recruiting this young. Did Wesker pick her up straight from school or something? After bringing Rebecca the serum, we help her take Richard to the safe room. They will both stay here for a while. But one of the biggest perks from this is that Rebecca can fully heal Chris up to 3 times.
Want me to treat your wounds?
Fuck off.
Jill doesn't get this benefit since I'm pretty sure Rebecca is dead in her scenario, just like how Barry is dead in Chris's scenario. But honestly, this isn't a big deal for Jill, because saving Richard on her playthrough gives you a nice treat. I highly recommend saving Richard in both scenarios, and I will explain why later. But now, we know there's a big snake lurking around, so it's important we save ammo just in case. If we continue from Richard, we will find this tiny little room with a hidden secret. Oh my god, you... Oh, fuck's sake. Oh, now I have to worry about him anymore, but oh my god. We can't pick items up in this room since it's dark, so we need the lighter. Chris has no problem with this since he carries one at all times. But if you're playing Jill, unlucky, you're definitely not carrying one, so back to safe room you go. For this reason, Jill gets downgraded to B tier. Inside this hidden room, we can find a music score. Again, another useless item. But with the armor key, we can finally access this room that's been guarded by 2 zombies. This room contains a trial and error puzzle. You have to push the knights in the correct order, so for time's sake, here's the solution, because it definitely didn't take me up to 10 minutes to solve. By solving this, we obtain this box. Inside, we finally get our first death mask. And now, just 3 more to go. Returning to the east side safe room, we will find a note from Barry. He has left some goodies inside. What a kind soul. Above this safe room is a door we can unlock with the armor key. Inside, we discover some foreshadowing. There are massive claw marks on the wall. Jill and Chris point out that it couldn't have been the work of the zombies. And finally, this is where Jill's special item finally has some more use, because behind us is another locked door, but Chris will need another old key. So we unlock the door and enter, only to discover Barry is inside reading.
Jill.
Barry, I didn't mean to get you that excited.
Wait,
Right.
did he lock himself
Anyway,
in this
you should
room?
read this.
Did the door lock behind him or something, or was he hiding like, what the fuck? Barry finds some notes and asks Jill to try and make sense of it. This is a will left by a researcher, but part of the letter has been torn out so we can only read the bottom half. The researcher claims he's been infected and there's no cure. The only way out is to take his own life. What's left in this room is this little bug puzzle. Well, it's not really a puzzle, you just have to switch their places and it opens a safe. And this is how we obtain the wind crest. This item will be useful later. That brain is ginormous. What the fuck? As I was heading back to the west safe room, I had a run-in with a loose end. That's turned already, you're kidding me. You dead for real this time? Holy fuck, you stubborn. There are still rooms on this side of the mansion we can unlock the armor key. So I explored more and opened this door at the end of this hall, and we stumble upon this.
Holy jeez, what is that? What the fuck is that?
This creature is blocking our path towards a mask. Bullets don't hurt it whatsoever, so we need something more toxic. This is where the chemicals finally get used. We must place the bag into this water and turn the valve on. Though be careful, if you turn it the wrong way, you will lose a year's supply of green herbs. Turning it the right way kills the roots, and this will allow us to retrieve our second death mask. Just 2 more to go now. Exploring further, we can find this bedroom with a very interesting diary. May 9th, 1998. Played poker tonight with Scott and Alias from security, and Steve from research. Steve was the big winner, but I think he was cheating. Scumbag. May 10th, 1998. One of the higher ups assigned me to take care of a new creature. It looks like a skinned gorilla. Feeding instructions were to give it live animals. When I threw in a pig, the creature seemed to play with it, tearing off the pig's legs and pulling out the guts before it actually started eating. May 11th, 1998. At around 5 AM, Scott woke me up, scared the shit out of me too. He was wearing a protective suit. He handed me another one and told me to put it on. Said there'd been an accident in the basement lab. I just knew something like this would happen. Those bastards in research never sleep, even on holiday. May 12th, 1998. I've been wearing the damn suit since yesterday. My skin's getting grimy and feels itchy all over. The goddamn dogs have been looking at me funny, so I decided not to feed them today. Screw 'em. May 13th, 1998. Went to the infirmary because my back is all swollen and feels itchy. They put a big bandage on it and told me I didn't need to wear the suit anymore. All I want to do is sleep. May 14th, 1998. Found another big blister on my foot this morning. I ended up dragging my foot all over the way to the dog's pen. They were quiet all day, which is weird. Then I realised some of them had escaped. Maybe this is their way of getting back at me, for not feeding them for the last 3 days. If anybody finds out, I will have my head handed to me. May 16th, 1998. Rumours going around that a researcher who tried to escape the estate last night was shot. My entire body feels hot and itchy, and I'm sweating all the damn time. I scratched the swelling on my arm, and a piece of rotten flesh just dropped off. What the hell is happening to me? May 19th, 1998. Fever gone, but itchy. Today hungry, and eat doggy food. May 21st, 1998. Itchy, itchy Scott. Came ugly face so killed him. Tasty. Itchy, tasty. This disturbing diary documented his transformation. Whoever this man is, slowly turned into a zombie. As we got deeper into his entries, we can slowly see him lose his sanity. As disturbing as this diary is, it also tells us that the Spencer Mansion is a lot more than just a home. They are keeping monsters here and researching them inside a secret laboratory. Whatever is down there, it's clearly had a leak and now there's a virus spreading around and turning people into zombies. All the zombies we've encountered were residents and researchers. This explains why they're all here. Returning to the main hall, we can interact with this locked gate and hear what sounds like a woman crying. This must be the stairwell that leads down into the basement lab. For now, we cannot enter through here. Back in the west side of the mansion, we can find this bar. The thing that sticks out the most here is this piano. This is a clue for us. Earlier, we collected a music sheet. Investigating the bar further, we can find this musical score. Combining this together, it gives us a completed music sheet. Using this item on the piano, Jill starts playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. It's a very beautiful song, yet it sounds sad at the same time. There's a sense of tension and anticipation with this song, but as the song progresses, it climbs and climbs with a sense of release. Almost like Beethoven is releasing all of his anxiety through the piano keys. As the song comes to a close, it's very uplifting. The song starts with a sad, depressing tune, but then eventually climbs up into a hopeful and uplifting ending. However, the uplifting part of Moonlight Sonata is missing, and the only part Jill plays is the beginning. It's almost like it's a cruel joke to whoever finds this music sheet. The song is a message. We are trapped inside an anxiety-filled environment where there's constant anticipation with no release. It feels like there's no escape. But I'm probably overanalyzing that a bit. Mikami probably picked this very song because it's quite fitting for the Spencer Mansion, so I'll shut up now. Once we've played the piano, a secret room opens for us. But this segment is very different for Chris. If we use the music sheet on the piano while playing as Chris, he will attempt to play Moonlight Sonata, but it turns out he's complete dog shit. But conveniently enough, Rebecca was in the hallway and heard Chris's horrible attempt at playing that song. However, Rebecca knows a thing or two about pianos and tries to play it herself. Obviously, she's not great, so she will need time to practice, so we have to come back later. Or you can do what I did and mess around in the main hall for 3 minutes, then return. And perfect timing, Rebecca can finally play the song for us. Inside the secret room is a gold shield emblem. However, picking it up will trap us inside this room. We have to use the same trick we used to retrieve the shotgun. We just need to find a suitable replacement. But inside this room is another diary. But notice the dates in the entries. This diary is decades old. This belonged to a man named Trevor. He documented his time on this estate. November 24th, 1967. 11 days has passed since arriving on this estate. How did I end up like this? A guy in a lab coat came with a plate of skimpy meal and said to me, "Sorry to put you through this, but it's for security reasons." That's when it hit me. It all makes sense now. There are only two people that know the secret of this mansion, Sir Spencer and myself. If they kill me, Sir Spencer will be the only person that knows the secret. But for what purpose? It doesn't matter now. It's too dangerous here. My family, I hope they're all alright. I've decided to escape. Jessica, Lisa, I pray you are safe. November 26, 1967. How could I be so careless? I lost my favourite lighter, the one Jessica gave me for my birthday. Now it's going to be much harder to get out of this dark place. November 13th. The date when my fate was sealed. My aunt was hospitalised just 3 days before that. Jessica and Lisa said they were going to visit her. I wish I could be there with them. But wait, even as I'm writing, my memory is coming back to me more vividly. Just before I passed out, I remember the men in the lab coat said something like, "Most likely your family is already." I pray for their safety. November 27th, 1967. Somehow, I managed to get out of that room, but getting out of this mansion won't be as easy. I have to get past all the booby traps. Tiger eyes, gold emblem. I have to try and remember for my own sake. Whatever's going on here at the Spencer Mansion, it hasn't been a recent thing. It's been going on for decades. But only just now, whatever they've been trying to contain, it's escaped. A deadly virus that reanimates corpses. But based on these diaries, there is something far worse to be discovered. Next, we have to head back to the dining room. But try not to die on your way out. Oh no. I died. Oh my god. In the dining hall, we can pick up this familiar looking emblem made of wood. We can use this to swap out for the gold emblem. Then we can place it above the fireplace. This will unlock the grandfather clock. It contains a very simple puzzle. We need to place the hands in the correct spot. The solution to this puzzle is right next to us. We need to match the hands to the colour of the knights. The length of their swords tell us which hands go where. Solving this puzzle rewards us with the shield key. We can use this key to unlock the room where Richard fled from. Let's just hope there isn't a big ass snake waiting. Holy shit. This is Yawn, the first boss you will encounter in this game. But since we saved Richard, we won't be the only one fighting it.
Payback time.
It is protecting the third death mask. But if you're quick enough, you can dodge the attacks to grab it whilst Richard distracts it. Once you have the mask, start laying into it with whatever weapon you have. It will die pretty quickly.
Thanks.
But just when you thought you had won, Richard gets swallowed up.
Richard!
Oh, he is fucked. He just got swallowed. Oh, at least I get the shotgun. With Richard's death, it blesses us with the best gun in the game, the assault shotgun. It's basically an upgraded version of your current shotgun, and it can hold 10 rounds. Wielding Richard's gun, it gave me the confidence to finish it off. But defeating it just causes it to flee. I think it's fleeing. Yeah. Oh my god. That thing just shot up into the sky. Okay, it turns out snakes can fly in this game. If you're playing as Chris, Richard would not be here to help you since he's resting in the infirmary. This means Chris will have to wait till he gets the assault shotgun. And I mean, poor bastard. Jill gets all the toys pretty early on in the game, and she even gets a grenade launcher. Chris is still stuck with his pea shooter and his dodgy shotgun. No wonder people say his scenario is harder. There is no doubt we will see Yawn again. But till then, let's go and find the final death mask. However, if you were bitten by Yawn, you will be poisoned. This means we have to rush the infirmary just like we did for Richard if we want to survive. But in Chris's scenario, we get a pretty unique segment. Chris passes out and we have to take control of Rebecca so she can save the day.
How you feeling?
What happened?
You were bitten by a poisonous snake and fell unconscious.
Now that we're back on our feet, we can use the shield key to open up the gallery in the east wing. However, after enough time has passed, zombies start breaking through the windows, which floods the east side of the mansion, making this pathway 3 times as dangerous. One even follows you through the door. You're kidding me. Oh my god. Zombies are getting crazy right now. which at the time I didn't know was possible till now, so this really caught me off guard. So I panicked and rushed into the gallery, which is filled with bloodthirsty crows. Oh hell no. They will swarm you if you get the puzzle solution wrong, though this is easy to avoid since the puzzle requires no brain power to solve. You have to match the colours of the jewellery on the glass panes. Each glass pane is of a person wearing one of the jewelleries that matches the one on the woman. Once all the colours are correct, you can open up the wall. This leads back into the cemetery, and we will find the final death mask on the floor. This secret passage is now a nice shortcut back into the east side of the mansion, making it easier to dodge the zombies that flooded that hallway. Now that we have all 4 death masks, it's time to return them. As we place each mask, the chains will start breaking one by one. The coffin crashes into the ground, and inside is a dead Crimson Head. But as we approach it, the only entrance to the crypt gets blocked. Yeah, I hope you brought your shotgun. This Crimson Head is much tougher than the ones we've already encountered. Since it has been locked away inside this coffin, who knows how old this one could have been. It may even be the first Crimson Head ever. If you aren't prepared for this fight, it can be a serious challenge since Crimson Heads are extremely aggressive and they close the distance pretty quickly. The best tip I can provide is to immediately start blasting it with a shotgun to knock him down. Once you've wasted it, you'll be able to retrieve this emblem from its coffin. This will allow us to access the gardens of the Spencer Mansion. And believe me, if you thought the mansion was freaky, out here, it's just as bad, if not worse, because there are more deadly crows. As we make our way down this pathway, we get a radio transmission from Barry.
Barry?
Monster! Chains! Gun! Ineffective! It's it!
But due to the damage, we can barely make out what he's saying and we can't communicate back. But we do get a little bit of information. Whatever Barry's ran into, it's invulnerable to bullets, and that we should avoid the forest. Chris receives this information from Wesker in his scenario instead, which pretty much confirms that Barry has fallen to the mansion. Further down the pathway, we can find a small cemetery. Looking closely at one of the headstones, we can see a familiar shape. This is where we finally use the wind crest. It gives us 3 more items which we will have to slot into the opposite headstone. By doing this, it rewards us with the 357 Magnum, an iconic weapon of the franchise. Shame it's going to stay in my chest collecting dust, as I won't be touching it until the last 5 minutes of the game, because the ammo for this is very valuable, and it's stretched thinly across the game. But this weapon is so powerful that it one-shots majority of the monsters in the game. But it's not worth wasting it on them, because you will have far tougher things to worry about. At the end of the path, we can find this very lonely cabin. Despite all the cobwebs, this place is actually pretty cozy. Though, Jill notes that the firewood is fresh, so we have no time to get warm by the fire. Let's quickly search this place before we regret entering here. We can find this crank along with this journal, but the English is incredibly broken, and I don't even know if I even want to read this out, because that would be embarrassing. But I'm gonna try anyway. 19. Daddy attached first, Mum attached second. Inside, red and slimy, white and hard. Not true, Mum where? Don't know Dad, found Mum again. When attached Mummy, she moved no more, she's screaming. Why? Just want to be with her. Mum where? I miss you. Along with this journal, there's a torn up family photo. The only member we see is a small child. Based on the journal, this belongs to her, and it seems she has been separated from her parents. But there's no way she's living in this cabin by herself. Maybe something is protecting her from the horrors of the mansion. But as we finish reading, something enters the cabin. Looking through this window, we quickly catch a glimpse of it. This monster is blocking our only exit, but nothing will stand a chance against it. Oh, nice one, Jill. After waking up, this monster continues to attack us, and no matter what we do, we cannot kill it. This was the monster that Barry encountered, so we have no other choice but to run. But taking a closer look at this thing, we can see that it resembles a human. But what's even more disturbing than that, is that it's wearing someone else's face. So let's leave before we have the same fate as them. If we backtrack to the mansion, we can go down the second path that leads to the residence section of this place. On our way there, we get a transmission from Brad.
You can hear me, just give me a sign. Anything.
He was our pilot for this mission. He's still in the area, but communications have essentially been cut off for him. He's hoping we send him a message at some point. But for now, let's continue to the residence. We have to use the crank that we found at the cabin to drain this water. This will allow us to cross over to use the elevator. But be careful down here though, as there are snakes that can poison you, but they're pretty easy to dodge. But if you were unfortunate and you do get poisoned, there will be blue herbs at the entrance of the residence. The residence is a pretty short segment, but the change in scenery is a welcome change. Right next to the entrance is a save room for you to switch out your loadout and save your game. Viewer discretion advised. If you are arachnophobic, I will warn you, things are about to get spooky. Oh my fucking god. Oh. This camera angle is superb. This enlarged creepy crawler made me shit myself. With the pre-rendered backgrounds, they were able to produce highly detailed models for the spiders. In my opinion, this is the creepiest spider I have ever seen in a game. As frightening as they are pretty passive and will only attack you if you get too close. So if you're careful enough, they won't bother you. Hey, he's bugged out, you led mate. I hope that's killed it. Inside this lounge, we can find many goodies, including this red book, but right now, there's no use for it. Doubling back to the main entrance, we must move this box in order to cross over this path. If you attempt to run over the holes in the floor, you will be grabbed by a familiar looking tentacle. Oh my god. I actually messed up my placement when I was playing as Jill and got grabbed every time I returned. What? This was a mistake that I corrected in my Chris playthrough. On the other side of the residence, we start hearing two people talking and Jill decides to eavesdrop on them.
No, that wasn't part of our deal. But it's not necessary to destroy stars. What about my family? If I play my cards right.
She eventually confronts them, and to her surprise, it was Barry and some other person. This raises a lot of questions about Barry, and he may not be the friend that Jill believes she had. They mention something about destroying stars, but when Jill questions him about who he was talking to, he completely brushes it off and just says he was talking to himself.
You heard. I think age is starting to take its toll. Talking to myself is becoming a bad habit.
Talking to yourself? You alright? What's gotten into you?
We could hear that Barry was worried about the safety of his family. This possibly means Barry is being controlled by a mysterious person, and he's using his family as leverage to get him to do things. Right now, we can't truly trust Barry. He eventually leaves and we continue with our investigation. But what this scene reveals is that there is a lot more to this mission that we don't know about. We don't experience this cutscene as Chris, since Barry is presumably dead in this scenario. Next to the safe room, we can find this key at the bottom of this bathtub. As you lurk around the residence, you will quickly realise this key doesn't open anything here, so we'll just have to store it for now. But investigating the room where we found Barry even further, we will find one of the residence keys. But after picking it up, we get ambushed by a zombie. However, since we're not returning to this room ever again, I left the room immediately without fighting the zombie, meaning it will be trapped in there forever. You can stay in here forever, mate. You're not getting out of that room.
Michael! Don't leave me here! Michael! Michael!
As we explore the bedrooms, we will discover that there are a few residents that game end themselves. The person that wrote this note mercy killed the man in the bathroom and then proceeded to take his own life. They were involved in a project that produced the very virus they became infected with. They rather end their lives on their own terms than turn into a zombie, and it was the very thing that pushed them to end their own suffering. However, despite their efforts, it wasn't enough. As we enter the bathroom, we hear a loud bang. Upon leaving the bathroom, the hanging corpse is missing, and this is where the camera angle becomes our worst enemy yet again, because as we approach the bed, we are ambushed by the very zombie that was hanging. Despite taking his own life, he turned anyway. The virus doesn't care whether you're alive or dead, you're going to turn either way. The man in the bathroom eventually turns too, showcasing the lack of understanding these scientists had when they developed the virus. They knew the devastating effects it had, but didn't understand how it works, because even they couldn't avoid being reanimated. Even when the zombie is dead, it continues to generate, which leads them to turn it into a crimson head. But since we've encountered many zombies now, we understand how it works. As long as the brain remains intact, the virus can survive. This is why it's important to destroy it, because that's the only cure. In one of the bedrooms, you will find these suspicious looking bookcases. Pushing them back against the wall, it reveals a ladder. Climbing down, it takes us to a place like nothing we've ever been to so far in this story. Under this whole place is a hidden laboratory, and it's completely flooded. Passing through this gate, we really get to see how screwed this entire situation is, because somebody let the sharks out.
Oh my god.
Entering this chamber as Chris, we're greeted with this cutscene.
How the fuck did he get down here?
Chris!
And somehow, Richard has made his way down here before we did and is warning us to stay back. Chris, with his selective hearing, ignores that warning and approaches anyway.
Chris, stop! No!
Mate, poor Richard, mate. Oh my god.
This causes Richard to sacrifice himself to save Chris. Now here's a tip for this situation. Run. Do not stop. Run for the nearest door because you don't want to be hanging around here. Because not only do these sharks do a shit ton of damage, there's even a possible chance of being sent back to your last save instantly. This is Neptune, a shark that's twice the size of a regular one and can kill you the moment it closes the distance. There's no point in stopping to shoot it because it's completely pointless. You're better off fleeing. Through this door, we can climb down this ladder which takes us to one of the control rooms. The only possible way to kill Neptune is to drain all the water from the facility. However, this shark seems to be somewhat intelligent as it's aware of what we're about to do, and it starts to desperately try and smash the only protection we have from the water. The integrity of the glass starts to rapidly deplete as each time Neptune smashes into the glass. Now, if we're not quick enough, we will drown. So we have to press all the buttons in the correct order. If you press the wrong button, the sequence restarts. So if you panic and press buttons randomly, it only makes your situation worse. You have roughly 2 minutes to solve this puzzle. Now, I can't remember the sequence to lower the safety barriers, so you're on your own on that one. Draining all the water will allow us to access the lower floors of the lab. And finally, after everything Chris has been through, he finally gets the assault shotgun. A gun that will carry you for the rest of the game now. Because since Chris doesn't get access to the grenade launcher, all the ammo for it is replaced with shotgun ammo. This makes every zombie encounter much less scary now, because you can just blow their noggins off and you will still have enough ammo to fight the final boss in the game. I'm not going to lie, the assault shotgun makes Chris's playthrough a breeze from this point on, simply because he gets more ammo for it. This is what I meant when I said this gun benefits Chris the most since Jill doesn't get as much ammo for it due to her bigger arsenal. As good as the grenade launcher is, I rarely used it simply because it was overkill for the ordinary monsters, though it does become incredibly handy for a couple of the bosses later. At the end of the chamber, you will find Neptune's lifeless body. Just past it is a platform we need to climb in order to retrieve a key. But obviously, as we try to pick the key up, Neptune wakes up and smashes into the platform, causing it to fall into the water. If we try to leave the platform, it will instantly kill you. So we have to push this generator into the water and flip the power on. This will cook Neptune for good, and now we can safely retrieve the residence key. Now that we have that, we can return back to the surface. Now we just need to find the right room. But don't make the same mistake I did and run straight into the wrong bedroom where you've left a dead zombie.
Oh my god, I went into the wrong room.
Inside, you will find this large room with a body at the end of this hallway. His entire face is swollen from being stung by the many hornets that have swarmed this place. Next to him is some pesticide, which we have to bring back to the hallway and use it in this hole in the wall. This is how we safely obtain the final key for this area. And inside that final room is where we finally use the red book. Placing it on the shelf gives you a mini puzzle. We just have to rearrange the books in the correct order. This moves the wardrobe beside us and it reveals a secret doorway. But investigating the bathroom first, we can see there are roots growing into the building and basically becoming one with it. We enter this secret doorway, and inside we discover the scientist's most diabolical creation yet.
Fucking diabolical.
This monster is simply known as Plant 42. You can read a report about this experiment back in room 2. This plant was infected with something the scientists call the T-virus. This is the very virus that Neptune was also infected with. However, it seems Neptune and Plant 42 completely had different results. Neptune just grew very large, weighing in at 3.5 tons with a length of 16 feet. But this isn't the reason she escaped. A scientist turned mad and released Neptune by destroying the very tank that contained her. Yorn was also most likely infected with the T-virus as well, because that also just grew larger. As for Plant 42, This was an experiment to test how the T-virus affects plant life. To their surprise, it yielded great results in Neptune as it did more than just increase in mass, it completely evolved. It turned into a grotesque monster that is deeply rooted into the Spencer estate. However, they couldn't contain the situation due to the flooding from Neptune's water tank. This gave Plant 42 a supply of water, and whatever contaminants were in the water, it accelerated its growth to an extreme level, which caused the scientists to lose control. But assuming the T-virus is responsible for the zombies too, this means it completely had a different effect on humans and dogs. The virus slowly kills them, then reanimates their remains, almost like a parasite. But referring back to the diary where the man slowly documented his transformation, it leaves you wondering, are they actually dead? Because his flesh was rotten while he was still alive, and he slowly lost his sanity. But he says he killed his co-worker and presumably ate him. He must have been alive still to be able to document it. Based off the suicide notes in the residence, these men were most likely involved with the creation of Plant 42, and now it's up to us to destroy it. For Chris, this boss can be difficult if you're not careful enough. Going up on the platform gives the plant an opportunity to throw you off, which can deal a ton of damage. However, if you stay below it, it makes it harder to aim your weapon, and it can even drop acid on you. There is one unique weapon that will seriously help you in this fight. Next to the suicide note, you will find this self-defense gun. This is one of the strongest weapons in the entire game, maybe even stronger than the Magnum, but it only has one shot. This is the perfect opportunity to spend it now, as Plant 42 is one of the toughest bosses in the game. So combine this with the assault shotgun, it should cost you 1 round from the self-defense gun and roughly 10 rounds from the shotgun. This will be enough to kill it. As for Jill, there is another way to kill it. If we head back to the bar and investigate further, there's actually a hidden code in this room that will unlock a particular room back in the gallery. We just need to light all these lanterns and take note of the symbols. Then, taking a closer look at the pool table, you will notice 3 particular numbers that stick out. Heading back to the code lock, we must match the numbers with the eye symbols. Doing this, we gain access to the chemistry lab. You will find a bunch of empty bottles and you will have zero clue on what to do. When we solved the bookcase puzzle, we got this white book before we interacted with it. This book contains a recipe for a potent chemical solution called V-Jolt. This recipe has a bunch of steps to produce it, and it will take me roughly 10 years to explain it. So let's just skip to the part where I finally successfully cooked it up. But now we have some V-Jolt, but what do we do with it? Referring back to the recipe book, it says we need to apply it to the roots deep inside the basement. This will poison the water and it will cripple the monster. This is where the control room key finally gets used. Here we can find the very roots that we need to poison. After this, return to Plant 42. We can already see the V-Jolt take effect, but in a last ditch effort, it tries to kill Jill. However, Barry is here to save the day.
What the hell is this thing?
Help! Help!
Only to then get grabbed as well. Out of desperation, Barry engulfs the monster in flames, killing it.
I thought it was finished.
Yeah. Something about that mansion still bothers me. But I think I'll stay here a little longer. We should split up again and investigate.
All right.
Barry tells us he's going to stay here to investigate further, but also notes that the mansion still bothers him. This is a hint for us to return. In the fireplace, we will find the final key to the mansion. There are still parts of it that has yet to be explored, so this is our next objective. But on our way back, we bump into someone we haven't seen for some time.
Wesker!
Jill, so you're safe.
That's what I was going to say.
I apologize. It was all I could do to protect myself against those strange creatures.
I understand. Anyway, it's good that you're safe.
Did you notice? Barry, he sounded a little flaky.
Now that you mention it, yeah. I'll keep a close eye.
Maybe it's quite natural under these circumstances. It's not really our standard operation. Jill, our first priority is to get out of here.
I agree.
There are still rooms in that mansion we can't get into because they're locked up. I've been looking for ways to...
Okay, if there's anything, I'll go back to the other mansion.
I'm counting on you.
Wesker himself is even suspicious of Barry, and asks us if we have noticed anything strange, which we have. Barry is clearly being blackmailed by a mysterious person. That someone may be responsible for leading us into this killing zone. But for now, we still don't have enough to go on. There are still missing star members to be found. As for Chris, the cutscene plays out differently. After killing Plant 42, we meet Rebecca in the lounge and we inform her of Richard's death. This leaves her lost for words, so she heads into the chemistry room to clear her mind. We can follow her into the room and we get a unique cutscene with her. She breaks down in tears. With the combination of losing someone she clearly cared about and the fact that we're in a nightmare, it breaks her. Rebecca is obviously capable enough to protect herself, so for now, we must continue our investigation. This is when Chris runs into Wesker, and the dialogue is a lot more interesting. Chris immediately asks where Jill is.
My words exactly. Where's Jill? Thought you were with her.
Yeah, I know. We got separated.
And he hesitates to respond. He just says they got separated and then orders us to investigate the mansion even further. In Jill's scenario, Barry is the one we should be concerned about, but Chris's interaction changes that. Since Barry is presumably dead in this scenario, this mysterious person has no leverage over the situation. Even though we're a team, there's hardly anyone we can trust.
This is Brad. Come in, Stars Alpha team. Come in.
This is Jill.
Does anybody hear me?
I hear you, Brad. Over.
As we make our way back to the mansion, Brad attempts to contact us again. We still can't communicate back, but this message gives us hope because Brad is still in the area looking for us.
Brad! Shit, it's broken.
There are some mean doggos right here, so give them a warm welcome. We can find an elevator right here, but it doesn't seem to work. We can interact with this control panel, and Jill and Chris note that the battery has been taken. Maybe we can find a replacement back at the mansion. Once we finally reach the mansion, we can take a breather. Since we've already been through this place and have dealt with a large chunk of the zombies, this should be smooth sailing, right?
Psych!
Mikami wasn't going to make it that easy. He has one more trick up his sleeve. As soon as you enter the mansion, a cutscene plays and we see a POV of something moving very fast. Even faster than any Crimson Head we've encountered. What's worse than that? It's heading straight for us. This is a hunter. These buggers replace most of the zombies you have killed and they stand on business. They are very fast, oh my god mate, fuck off, nimble, and they dish out a ton of damage. And if you give them the chance, they will kill you in just one hit. Hunters may seem scary at first, but you will quickly notice they are pretty easy to dodge. They tend to jump a lot, which makes it really easy to run around them. This segment is much easier for Chris since he has a lot more shotgun ammo than Jill. Hunters have a lot of health and they can take up to 3 shots to kill. This is something you really can't afford playing as Jill, but I'd argue this is the part in the game where you need to keep the shotgun out. You do not want to be cornered by one of these things. You need something that's going to knock them back. One saving grace about the hunters is that once they're dead, they're dead. You do not need to burn these things. So this saves you the headache of backtracking a lot more to burn bodies. Something else that has changed as well is that the zombies that were stuck in some areas will try and break into new ones. For example, this dummy is trying to break into the hallway next to the dining room. Well, not on my watch. Come through that door. There you. Come on. Oh my god, that is fucking terrifying. Does he actually come through or is it just like a little spooky thing? He's actually coming through. Whoa! We have to use our new key on the door on the west side of the mansion. It's just above the safe room. Inside, you will find one of the most annoying puzzles in this game. Like, no matter what, I wasn't able to retrieve these gems. You're meant to move around the room so that you can get the right placements on the eagles. They track your every move, and once they are set, you'll hear a sort of clunk sound, indicating the gemstone has been unlocked. But as I went to pick it up, the birds would just move every time, which just locks the gemstone again. So here's a time lapse of me trying to solve it. I then eventually realised I was doing the whole thing completely wrong. I solved the puzzle in like a minute when I came back as Chris. But before we leave, there's one very important document we must read. This document was produced just 2 days ago. July 22nd, 1998. X Day is drawing up on us. Execute the following procedures within 1 week. Prompt actions are demanded. First, lure the stars to the estate and obtain BOW's raw combat data against stars. Second, collect 2 embryos of each mutated specimens as samples, including the Tyrant. Dispose of the Tyrant. Third, ensure complete disposal of the Arclay laboratory, including all personnel and test animals. Disguise their deaths as an accident. When the above procedures are executed, report to headquarters for further instructions. If for some reason you are unable to execute the procedures by the deadline, report immediately. In case of emergency situations, report directly to the extension number 5691. Good luck, Umbrella Headquarters, Umbrella Incorporation. Holy shit, this whole thing was a setup. Us running to the Spencer Mansion wasn't unintentional, it was part of their plan. Stars are being used as test subjects to collect data of fighting their BOWs. BOW stands for Biological Weapons of Warfare. These test subjects are meant to be weapons, but they have lost control of all of them. However, that may have not been part of their plan, since everything we've discovered so far, the Spencer Mansion has been one huge fuck up and everything has been released. Whoever this letter is for, they have been given orders to collect embryos from a test subject and then destroy the laboratory. They are going to disguise this as an accident. Whoever Barry was talking to at the residence may be the very person these orders were for, but this document also reveals who is behind this mess. Umbrella. This is a pharmaceutical conglomerate. Based off everything we've been through, they are trying to get into the weapons market, more specifically, biological weapons. Rebecca mentions Umbrella when she points out the fact that all the medical supplies there are owned by them.
Somebody sure knows how to get a deal. Most of the medical supplies here are from Umbrella.
Umbrella?
Don't you know? They're only the biggest taxpayers around here. They make most of these medicines right here. Homegrown in Raccoon City.
All the labs make sense now. They have sent an agent to secure all the samples and cover the whole thing up. We need to find out who this person is for more answers. Whoever they are, they managed to lure stars into a killing zone, so they must have close ties. We only need the red stone to progress. However, the yellow stone is very important as it's required for the best ending in the game. Heading back to the main hall, we can finally unlock this door on the bottom floor. Inside, you will find this very creepy camera angle, and it took me a couple of seconds to realise it was a mirror and I almost ran into the zombie. There's a bunch of nice stuff in this room to pick up, but we only need one item, and that's just this jewellery box. Combining it with the redstone, it will give us a little puzzle to solve, and it's pretty straightforward. Inside is the dispenser key. This is used on the opposite door of the gallery. You will find some more good stuff in here too, but most importantly, this emblem. However, entering this room as Chris, something else happens.
Rebecca! Is she upstairs?
We hear Rebecca scream. Chris notes that he thinks he heard it coming from upstairs. You have to be quick here, otherwise Rebecca will die. Rushing upstairs to the study, we find Rebecca cornered by a hunter, who then for some reason instantly turns his attention towards us and almost kills me. But then straight after that, I almost kill myself. I used a flash grenade to push it off, and then for some reason I thought it was a good idea to shoot it in the mouth. But you know, at least Rebecca's okay. So what does this change? Well, if Rebecca dies, it ruins your chances at getting the best ending in the game. So if you're trying to 100% the game, it's important to save Rebecca. But if you let her die, well, you're just an arsehole. Returning to the attic, we can finally open the door at the end of the hall. This takes us into the library, where our big cold-blooded friend greets us. If you decided to stand your ground against it in your last encounter, it will still be injured, which makes this final fight easier. This is where I finally used Jules' grenade launcher, and it destroyed it. In just 5 shots, Yawn was no more. For Chris, this fight was much tougher because I fled from it this time. This means Yawn has more health this time, but if you bait Yawn to go down this narrow path, you can get easy headshots on it with the shotgun. It will eventually die after around 10 shots. As Yawn dies, it smashes into the bookcase and a lot of books just fall to the floor, but one sticks out like a sore thumb. This book contains a medallion. This will be used later. Back to the east side of the mansion, we will find the final door for this key. This room is a puzzle and a death trap at the same time. You have to push this statue onto the platform at the end, but as we try to do that, the walls start closing in on you. You have to reset the walls by pressing this switch. As the walls are pulling back, you have to quickly rush around and push the statue onto the pressure plate. This will shut down the death trap and open a secret passage. But it seems more like a prison cell as it doesn't lead anywhere. But there is this hole that's been dug into the ground. We can jump down and investigate further, but it leads to a dead end. All that's down here is a book that contains another medallion. And this diary. November 29th, 1967. I can't get out. I have tried every possible way to escape, but only to be faced with the reality that I'm trapped. I've been everywhere. The laboratory with the large glass tubes filled with formaldehyde, and those dark, wet and eerie caves. What can I do? At first, I didn't want to believe my eyes, but that familiar high-heeled shoe in the corridor, it was like reflex. One name came to my mind, Jessica. I don't want to believe they share the same fate as me. No, I can't give up hope. I have to hope they're alive. I haven't had anything to eat or drink for the past few days. I feel like I'm going crazy. Why is this happening to me? Why do I have to die like this? I was too obsessed with designing this ghastly mansion. I should have known better. November 31st, 1967. It was a dark and damp underground tunnel, and another dead end. But even in the darkness, something caught my eye. A grave, but deeply engraved into the stone was my name. At that instant, it all became clear to me. Those bastards knew from the beginning that I'd die here, and I fell right into their trap. But it's too late now. I'm losing it. Everything is becoming so far away. Jessica, Lisa, forgive me. Because of my ego, I got both of you involved in this whole damn conspiracy. May God justify my death in exchange for your safety. This man is Trevor, the very name that was in the previous diary all the way back in the bar. His full name is George Trevor. He believed his family was with his aunt, but he noticed Jessica at the mansion, and now he's afraid that his family have been taken to the mansion and their fates are unknown at this point. The secret about this mansion was this whole operation. Spencer hired George to build this place, and this is what he meant by them two being the only people that know the secret. But Spencer couldn't risk him knowing the true purpose, so he trapped him and left him to die. This was part of his plan all along. The moment George agreed to this whole thing, he unknowingly solidified his fate. And then eventually, he died with their secret. But funny enough, pressing a button on the grave opens another secret passageway. And now, we're able to escape? What? Ah, George, if only you had more points in perception. This ladder takes us down into the basement of the mansion, where you will find more enlarged creepy crawlers and zombies. Down here, we can turn the power on for the elevator, which gives us access to the floor just outside the library. Then you will finally find a battery. Now all we have to do is run all the way back to the elevator by the fountain. This opens a shortcut back to the entrance of the mansion. What we need to do is use the crank again to close the gate to cut off the water. This will stop the waterfall, allowing us to access the cave. This segment is pretty short, but there's some dark turns in the story that take place down here. Deep down in this murky cave, we find another STARS member, who's alive but seriously injured. This is Enrico, the final member of Bravo team, but he has something interesting to tell us.
Stop! Are you with anybody, Jill?
No, but why?
The stars are finished. Someone is a traitor. Umbrella set us up.
But before he can tell us any more, a mysterious person finishes him off. What I find odd about this, however, is that whoever this person may be decides not to kill Jill along with Enrico. If Barry is the traitor, then maybe he can't face himself killing Jill as he sees her as a close friend, despite clearly being blackmailed by a higher being. This encounter is much different for Chris, however.
Come any closer, Chris.
What happened?
Double crosser.
Enrico, wait. Enrico!
Enrico doesn't say much, but instead he points his gun at Chris, accusing him of being the traitor. The same outcome happens and Enrico is finished off, but by who? We haven't seen Barry at all in this scenario, and Wesker essentially confirmed Barry's fate at the beginning of the game by being hesitant on telling Jill and Chris what happened to him.
Where's Barry?
He's...
No.
But the fact Enrico pointed the gun at Chris and not Jill tells us that the traitor is male. Beside Enrico's body is another crank. This is used deep inside the cave to make a bridge. We need to double back and, oh for fuck's sake, not these guys again. Once we have opened a path, we gain access to the creepiest boss in this game. This is Black Tiger. Just like Neptune, Yawn and Plant 42, this was also infected with the T-virus. Now, I know he looks scary, but just shoot him a couple times with the grenade launcher using incendiary rounds and it's GG.
Wait, 2 rounds killed that thing? What?
This is probably the easiest boss in the game for Jill since it's incredibly weak to fire. This fight is a little bit annoying for Chris though, but at least we finally get another brand new weapon, the flamethrower.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Which sounds cool, but honestly, it's not as good as the grenade launcher since you have to be pretty close for it to do any damage. And getting close to anything in this game is the last thing you want to do. But after all of that, we have to return the flamethrower if we want to progress. It's fine, who needs that when you have the assault shotgun anyway? Through this door, we have to solve this little puzzle to obtain this cylinder. Return to the elevator, we can combine the cylinder with this shaft and this should turn the power on. But then Barry comes out of nowhere and just joins us. After what happens, I don't think sticking around with him is really a good idea, but Jill goes along with it anyway. And based on the dialogue, you know a backstab is coming, it's just a matter of time.
Jill, go check it out. We had enough surprises for one day. I'll stay here and secure our escape route in case something happens.
Okay.
Oh, I do not trust that.
As we get deep into the cave, we run into something I was hoping we would not see again.
Oh my god, not you.
This monster is somehow down here. And since it's invulnerable to bullets, we have no other choice but to run around it. The only way out of here is locked. It requires another flamethrower to be placed on this wall to unlock it. To find this, we have to enter this storage room and push this box onto this cargo lift. But be sure to climb onto these boxes as there are some hidden goods that are completely out of view. How anyone found this, I do not know. Now, we need to double back to the elevator since this box gets transported next to this hydraulic press. But when we return as Jill, Barry completely abandons us. What a shocker. Crushing the box, you will be able to retrieve a broken flamethrower. Placing this on the wall, you will be able to escape. But this door just leads into someone's hideout. It's filled with all these creepy dolls and family photos. Behind us, we can find another one of those jewelry boxes, which contains a frame for the emblem we picked up a while ago. But what's more interesting than that, is this family photo. It's the same one we found in the cabin, but fully intact. On the back of it, there's a note. November 10th, 1967. Progenitor virus administrated. Jessica. Administrated virus type A. Plasmalizing of tissue during cell activation. Virus fusion. Negative. Action. Disposed. Lisa. Administrated virus type B. Plasmalizing of tissue during cell activation. Virus fusion. Positive but delayed fusion. Body modification. Observe constant results. Status. Continued protective observation. George. Action. Terminated. Based on his notes, George's family were at the Spencer mansion long before he knew it, and they had a worse fate than he did. They were turned into test subjects. Probably a worse fate than death. Jessica's body didn't react well to the tests, and they just disposed of her. As for their daughter, Lisa, well, the tests were positive, and the scariest thing about that is she's still alive. But the notes don't stop there. There are some diary entries written on the back of it. November 14th, 1967. I feel dizzy after the shot they gave me. I don't see Mum. Where did they take her? She promised that we would escape together. Did she escape alone and leave me behind? November 15th, 1967. I found Mum. We ate together. I was very happy. But she was a fake, not my real Mum. Same face but different inside. I got Mum's face back. Nobody can have my mum except me. I attach her face to me so she doesn't go away, because Mum's sad when I meet her without her face. From inside box, scent of mummy. Maybe true mother there. Stone box hard, it hurt. Still rope in the way. I can't see mother because 4 stones. This monster is actually Lisa Trevor. And what's the scariest thing about all of this is the face she's wearing. It belongs to the person that was impersonating to be her mother. As soon as George unknowingly signed away his life, he also dragged his family down with him. But they suffered a worse fate than he did. George was lucky. Umbrella tested their virus on his family. Jessica suffered a painful death, and Lisa mutated into a monster. Since then, she's been stuck at the Spencer estate, trapped. Umbrella chained her up in some kind of dungeon and continued to observe her for decades. Comparing the entries in these diaries, you can see Lisa's mental state decline as each page goes on. However, she clings onto the memory of her mother, but is Lisa even aware of what's happened to her? We can escape the cave by climbing these ladders at the back. This would take us straight back to the cabin, which explains how Lisa was able to access the caves. She has probably been all over the Spencer estate looking for her parents. Combining the frame with the emblem, it gives us the same key we used to open the door to the gardens, and putting these two side by side, they look very familiar. These look like they fit together to open the gate to the basement, the one where Lisa was crying from. It may be a way down into the main lab of the Spencer mansion. We open the gate and immediately see red flags, a save point and a stash box, a clear indicator that we're walking down into a boss fight. But down here we get another surprise. We run it into Barry once again. Jill, who's obviously pissed, decides to finally confront Barry.
I was worried because I thought you were...
Start talking.
Calm down. I didn't want to do it. Believe me, I can explain.
Don't lie to me!
But before he can spill the beans, Lisa gets in our way of finally getting answers. Barry demands his weapon back, and we're greeted with a choice. Give it back or not. Either option is a risk. This fight won't be easy alone, but how can we trust someone who has betrayed everyone? I deny Barry his request, simply out of curiosity, since bullets can't harm Lisa anyway. But by doing this, you essentially kill Barry, which obviously makes this fight harder.
Barry!
However, you get to keep Barry's gun, a 44 Magnum, basically an upgraded version of the 357 Magnum, but obviously dealing a lot more damage. But there is zero spare ammo for this weapon, meaning it eventually becomes useless. I essentially killed Barry for this shit. And now, I'm all alone fighting Lisa. But then I quickly realised, if you get too close to the edge, she can just push you off. I think this was honestly a blessing in disguise because now I get to see what happens if I return the gun to Barry.
Thanks, Jill.
To my surprise, he actually helps us, which makes this fight so much easier. Whilst Barry distracts Lisa, we can push these stones off the edge, which is something Lisa said she couldn't do in her diaries, despite being able to smash statues into pieces. She isn't able to somehow break these stones or push them off like Jill is doing right now, which is odd, but video games. Once all the stones are gone, it opens the coffin in the middle. Inside is Jessica, Lisa's mother. After finally being reunited with her, she jumps down into the depths, though we never actually find out if she survived or not, but I would rather not find out. So how does this fight go down with Chris? At the bottom, we meet Wesker.
You're a bit of a mess up. Chris, take a piece of the action.
There's no choice here, or really any dialogue, it just goes straight into the boss fight, and something happens that I was not expecting at all. Whilst I was pushing one of the stones, Wesker gets thrown off the edge off camera, and all you can hear is just him scream. I on purposely died because I wanted to capture it on record, and also because it's funny, but I just couldn't replicate it. I had no idea why. But it's crazy to think that Wesker can just have an off-screen death. The boss ends the same way for both characters. Barry and Wesker just tell you to go on ahead while they investigate further. But Jill still doesn't question Barry on what's really going on, she just gets on with her business. Hopefully, letting Barry live was the right call, because you never know, that decision may come back to haunt you. You'd think this place would take you straight to this lab, but at the end is just another elevator that brings us back to the surface. At the top is just this pond and nothing else. But carefully examining the statues, it has a slot for something we picked up a while ago. We need to use the medallions on either side, and this will reveal a secret entrance. This lab is a lot more hidden than the last one, most likely meaning whatever's down here holds darker secrets. For a laboratory that's under the entire mansion, it's rather small and narrow, but we quickly find some of the deceased scientists that were working down here. Knowing I'm at the end of the game and holding a nice chunk of ammo, I started blasting.
No, 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 no! Wait, 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 wait! Wait, 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 wait!
Since this place is quite tight and filled with a bunch of zombies, do not forget to burn the bodies. If you don't, you're sorely going to regret it later. We can find this X-ray room where we can examine a few scans of human organs, which makes you wonder if they tested the virus on humans too. Some parts of the organs are glowing red. This is actually a puzzle. We have to put the scans in alphabetical order, then take the first letter of each organ that is glowing. This spells out the word cell. This will be important later. On the opposite end of the lab, we can find this operating room, and on the table we can find a corpse, thus confirming they were indeed testing the virus on humans. But what's in the back is what I find most interesting. There's just a row of human corpses in suction bags. It's hard to tell if any of them turned since it doesn't say whether or not the brain was destroyed. From what we know, the virus works if the brain is intact. What may give us some answers are these researcher notes. The Act, researcher's notes. There is now evidence that when the host loses consciousness, the body goes into a dormant state. During this time, the virus becomes active and rapidly transforms and reconstructs the basic composition of the body. The host eventually mutated into a humanoid creature. Its speed and amazing muscular development are particularly noteworthy. After transformation, it becomes more agile and aggressive. Already 4 of our researchers have died from trying to feed it, turning the place into an instant bloodbath. Ever since this tragic and barbaric accident, we have decided to call its kind Crimson Heads. That dangerous and precious prototype specimen can't be left there. We have figured out a way to deal with it. Termination is definitely not an option. We finally decided to freeze the specimen and confine the body inside the basement of the backyard cemetery. These notes confirm that the very first Crimson Head was the one in the backyard cemetery. And this answers why the bodies in the back are frozen. These bodies are indeed infected, but to prevent them from transforming into a Crimson Head, they froze all the bodies, which seizes the virus. Now, it's never mentioned if the intended purpose of this virus was to turn people into zombies, but if that was the purpose of the virus, this could be one dangerous BOW, even more dangerous than Yawn, Neptune and Plan 42, because if you infect an entire population, that very population becomes your weapon. That is the idea behind this virus. There's a computer right here, but it requires login details. Maybe if we investigate further, we might find clues on what those details could be. Many areas of the facility are on lockdown and require an MO disk to open. 2 of those disks are hidden inside the lab. You can find one above the stairs by the main entrance and one inside this conference room. And for some reason, I didn't record myself reading an important document that gives us the details to the computer, because I'm a dummy. But the login is John and the password is Ada. Yes, that's very Ada. The reason her name is here because Ada was dating a member of the research team. This is how she's tied to Umbrella. But there's a lot more to Ada and she's one sneaky girl.
Well, if it isn't the bitch in the red dress.
This computer allows us to unlock the west part of the lab. However, to unlock B-3F, it requires a unique password. That word being cell. Now that we can access more of the west side, we can enter this office which contains an important item that will give us a lot of answers. But also inside is a zombie that looks like it just got straight off an operating table. Some of the test subjects are lurking around and they look so unsettling. But there is something else in this room. We can find a report about the T-virus outbreak and it's rather fucked. To Sanitation Division. Attention, Manager of Sanitation. From Raccoon Disaster Contingency Committee. The contents of this fax are confidential and intended for the named addressee only. Any copying or disclosure of the contents of this fax to any third party is strictly forbidden by the sender. After reading the contents of this fax, it must be destroyed immediately. We expect significant increase in the damage done by the recent T-virus outbreak than initially estimated. There are several concerns. First concern. More than half of the researchers have been infected by the T-virus and died. It has also been reported that almost all of the survivors of this accident are starting to show symptoms of the T-virus infection. Second concern. Our secret security patrol team has also been completely eradicated. Therefore, our most recent research is in danger of public disclosure. Quick actions are demanded to prevent this mass media coverage. Third concern. there is a high possibility that most of the specimens are running loose inside the compound. We expect many casualties to follow. However, yet unfortunate, these casualties underscore the success of our research results. Actions must be taken to prevent our research results from being made public. We suspect the first official intervention will come from the state police and STARS. We strongly recommend taking measures against them first. What this document tells us is that Umbrella do not give a shit about what happened. In fact, they see this entire thing as a success. They know the T-virus works. Now what's most important to them is destroying any evidence that links Umbrella to creating this. Since Umbrella operates within Raccoon City, their biggest threat is the STARS. So their plan all along was to lure the STARS into the mansion and destroy all the evidence along with STARS. Return to the conference room with the slide filter, we can make an interesting discovery. This slide contains a report of all the specimens that Umbrella have created that were specifically designed to be a bioweapon. This suggests that Plant 42, Yawn and Black Tiger were never meant to be weapons. It could have just been an experiment, or they were too hard to contain for it to be suggested as a bioweapon. But on the 5th slide, we see a monster we have not encountered before. It's called a Tyrant. It resembles a human but looks nothing like any of the zombies we've encountered. Instead of being reanimated, it looks like this subject evolved into something else. Referring back to the letter we found in the mansion, the mysterious person was ordered to retrieve samples of all the specimens except for this one. Umbrella wanted this one in particular destroyed. As to why, who knows. But it's on the final slide, we make a revelation. We can view a picture of the very group that produces these weapons. We can see all of their faces, but none of them stick out, except for the person at the end. Wesker is working for Umbrella, and is one of the people responsible for all of these creations. But let's be honest here, we already knew this. This game is not very good at hiding twists. I mean, it was obviously Wesker. He mysteriously vanished for the majority of the game, and if we listen closely to Barry's conversation, you can clearly hear it's Wesker's voice.
No, that wasn't part of our deal.
If the glasses alone weren't evident enough, then I don't know what is. The motherfucker kept them on this entire time, even when it's dark outside. Not only this, Wesker just emits the aura of a villain. Wesker became a high-ranking officer, then formed STARS himself. He was the captain of the department, but whilst he did all of that, he was also working for Umbrella. This elaborate plan was to keep Umbrella's enemies close. This way, Wesker can monitor the police from the inside. But now that the mansion has fallen apart, it's time they clean up their mess and destroy their biggest threat along with it. It was the perfect setup for Wesker. At the end of the slide is a 4-digit code. This unlocks the monitoring room, which is where we obtain this key. This opens the door in the southeast side of the lab, which is where we find this power room for the facility. However, since the lab has been on lockdown for some time now, the fuel needs to be replaced. Whilst retrieving the capsule, we get this warning. The canister is empty for now, so we can ignore it. Inside this power room, it's crawling with these bug-like creatures. Knowing we may return here shortly, I decided to clear it all out because it saves me the trouble of having to deal with them whilst carrying a literal pocket nuke. We need to return to this office since this is where we refuel the canister. But as soon as I put it back into my inventory, I immediately forgot about the warning and blew up.
Oh my god, oh my god, I forgot.
Which meant I had to do all of that again. Once you have this capsule fueled up, you cannot run, otherwise you risk setting it off. This is why it's important to clear out all the zombies and whatever these things are, because if they grab you, there's a chance the fuel will blow up. Now that the capsule has been returned, we need to turn the main power back on. You will find this deeper inside this part of the lab. Flipping this on will allow us to use the elevator back on the north side. By interacting with the elevator, someone catches up with us. Barry is back to join, but this may not be a good thing. Knowing that he and Wesker are working together, this may not end well. Maybe letting him live wasn't really a great idea after all. For Chris, however, Rebecca joins us at the elevator. Depending on how you played the game and what kind of choices you've made along the way, there's a possibility that you'll be going down deep into the lab all by yourself. At the bottom, we meet Wesker once again. And to no one's surprise, Barry betrays Jill. But can we blame him?
Oh, don't blame Barry for everything. I hear that his better half and 2 lovely daughters will be in danger if he doesn't do everything I tell him to.
Wesker makes it clear that he's doing this for his family because he has no choice.
Why eliminate stars?
Believe it or not, that's Umbrella's intention.
You're just a slave of Umbrella.
Smart girl, but I think you misunderstand me. The things you mentioned are nothing. I'll burn all of them along with this entire laboratory. Barry, go up on the ground and wait there.
Even though Wesker is a double agent for Umbrella, he actually reveals to us that this mission is for personal gain.
Bastard. Oh!
Umbrella? Well, I used some carrots and sticks to cow him, but it had nothing to do with Umbrella. I just used Barry for my personal interests.
Not only is he betraying stars, but he's also betraying Umbrella. The man is actually a triple crosser. As to why, well, we actually get more answers from Chris's scenario.
Thanks. Since when, Wesker?
I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about.
Since when have they been slipping you a paycheck?
I think you're a bit confused. I've always been with Umbrella. And stars were Umbrella's. No, rather, my little piggies. The Tyrant virus leaked, polluting this whole place, and unfortunately, I had to give up my lovely members of Stars.
You killed them with your own dirty hands! You son of a bitch!
No.
Oh yes, dear. Just like this.
Becca!
Don't move!
You...
This mission was not only a setup to destroy stars, but they were also being used as tools to help Wesker betray Umbrella. Wesker was told to dispose of the Tyrant. However, Wesker wouldn't allow that since it's basically his creation. Knowing how valuable his knowledge is and what the Tyrant virus can do, he most likely wanted to safely retrieve it and run off to work for one of Umbrella's competitors. That was the purpose of his mission, the true purpose. Use stars to safely retrieve the Tyrant virus, then destroy everything that ties him to Umbrella. Wesker essentially formed stars so that one day he could pull a heist on Umbrella. As Wesker is about to execute Jill, Barry had a change of heart.
Barry!
Forgive me.
No, you're not to blame. It's Umbrella and Wesker.
But as we're distracted, Wesker releases the Tyrant. Since Wesker helped create the Tyrant, he believes he understands it and can control it. But...
What? Premature.
Premature.
However, Wesker has a different outcome for Chris. Now this boss fight can be quite tricky. The Tyrant has a lot of health, and if he gets too close, he can pull off a mean combo that will kill you. Now remember the Magnum? Now is the perfect time to wipe the dust off it. As you can see, I have saved up a lot of ammo, and I think now is a good time to use it. It takes roughly 6 shots to drop it, but don't keep your hopes up, we're not out of the woods yet. We check on Barry, and notice Wesker has done a runner. As we leave, the self-destruct sequence begins. Wesker is going to finish the job, even if that means losing everything he worked for. But since Wesker is dead for Chris, Rebecca is the one who sets off the self-destruct sequence, since she thinks it's important we destroy all of the Tyrants, because they could be a serious threat if we just leave them all here. We need to rush to the surface if we want to escape. This is why it's important to burn all the bodies at the beginning, because by now, they would have all turned into Crimson Heads. Once you've reached the surface, we finally find signal flares which we can use to contact Brad with. But it wasn't going to be that easy.
Holy fuck!
Now, you need to be careful here, because if you're not quick enough, the torrent is going to send you flying.
Oh, it's Brad.
Whatever it is.
This is why I urge you to save all of your magnum ammo, because this thing eats up so much ammo. Eventually, Brad drops down a rocket launcher for us to finally end the tyrant. And it triggers probably the most dramatic cutscene for its death. Finally, after all of that, we escape.
Yeah, my wife and kids. They always wait up for me.
Wait, hold on. I feel like I'm missing someone. Oh shit, I forgot about Chris. If you are the only survivor left, that's basically the bad ending of the game. But how do we find Chris and Jill? Well, remember those MO discs that I brought up and never mentioned again? Well, these are used to unlock a secret part of the lab. You need 3 in total. But I know what you're about to say. Didn't I not say there was only 2 in the lab? Yes, I did. The 3rd one is all the way back in the mansion. Remember that yellow gemstone? The one I said is key to getting the best ending? You have to bring the stone to this tiger statue on the west side bottom floor. Placing the stone in the tiger's eye gives you the 3rd and final MO disc. But you have to make sure you pick this up before you go down to the lab, otherwise you will be locked out of getting the best ending. Now you have to use the MO discs on 3 different computers in the lab. This will unlock the secret area, which is where you will find either Chris or Jill.
Chris?
Jill.
Chris? Wesker's the...
I know. I can't open it.
However,
wait,
you
I'll be
cannot
back.
open the door until the self-destruct sequence has started. This will unlock their door and you have to go back down there to open it. This will give you one of the best endings in the game. However, if Rebecca or Barry is in the helicopter with you, you get the best ending. And congratulations! After all that stress, we triumphant. We finally escaped the survival horror. We escaped the Spencer Mansion.
Jill, no. You don't want to go back out there.
Look out! It's a monster!
Chris, stop!
Chris!
Double crosser.
Enrico, wait.
Start talking.
Becca!
Don't move. Umbrella. Well, I used some carrots and sticks to cow him. I just used Barry for my personal interests. Jill, you did a fine job.
Oh boy, the game doesn't stop there though. If you've played any Resident Evil game, then you will know about the replayability, and Resident Evil is no exception. After beating the game, you will unlock new outfits for Jill and Chris. Each one looks very unique from one another. This one is my favourite for Jill. Yeah, don't ask why. And this one is my favourite for Chris, because it makes him look incredibly out of place, especially while wielding this infinite rocket launcher. You will unlock this weapon after beating the game in under 3 hours. It's a difficult challenge, but the reward makes it worth it. You will earn a weapon that will give you a severe power trip. But if you want more of a challenge, then try out Real Survival Mode. This game mode increases the health of all the monsters and they also do a lot more damage. There's also a lot less supplies which force you to be more conservative with your ammo. One change that makes this challenge really difficult is that the item boxes are no longer interconnected. This means you have to be more strategic on where you leave weapons and supplies. But the biggest hurdle is that auto aim has been turned off. Oh, this is fucking wonky, mate. If you're a Chad and real survival isn't hard enough for you, then try out Invisible Zombie Mode. No, I'm not joking, this is actually a real thing. Do I have to literally guess where he is? What the fuck? Auto aim him? Whoa. Every monster in the game is invisible. They will only appear if they grab you. This game mode makes you rely on your knowledge about the mansion and using your ears to track the zombies. Oh, that still isn't enough for you? Okay then, try out One Dangerous Zombie mode. This mode removes all of the zombies from the mansion and replaces them with just one dangerous zombie. Forrest is back from the dead, sort of, and he will relentlessly chase you through the mansion, but here's the catch, you cannot kill him. If you try, the grenades that are on his body will just explode, which will kill you. So you're forced to essentially train this zombie like Call of Duty to progress. Mikami created this mode with the intent to torture the players. And that's it. That's Resident Evil. In my opinion, the greatest survival horror game ever made, and nothing has come close to replicating it. There's a reason why so many game developers take inspiration from Resident Evil, and it's simply down to the fact they perfected it. I hope you enjoyed this video. It took me a while to make, but I'm glad I pulled through with this one. Now, on to the next project. See you guys till then.